Hi guys, welcome back to my anorexia recovery. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about how it all started for me, like how I sort of got to be at the place where I was anorexic or that I was struggling with anorexia. And I know it kind of sounds like, okay, so you're telling me like the story of how it all began. Shouldn't this have been like the first video? And yeah, in all honesty, it probably should have been. But the reason I haven't made this video until now is because one, it's like really personal and I wasn't so sure I wanted to share. But I've decided I do, and just to show that it's not like, because before I struggled with anorexia, I had like a really just wrong view of how a person develops an eating disorder. I thought they decide, you know, they just wake up one day and they're like, you know what, I don't like the way I look, so I'm going to be anorexic. Or, you know, like they make the conscious decision to just stop eating and drinking like they should, or they decide to start, you know, making themselves throw up just because they want to look a certain way. And that's like as deep as it goes. And that's just not true. The way my anorexia started, it had nothing to do with the way that I looked. It had nothing to do with the fact that I wasn't happy with the way my body looked. It was just like this, I don't know, all these other issues that I was trying to work through all of a sudden just all sort of morphed into, okay, but if you lose weight, it'll fix everything. And it makes no sense, but I feel like sharing that might help some people like kind of catch it or something, or just, I don't know, have a better understanding of it. And I think that's important because I try in my videos to share things that will help you through your recovery or better understand your eating disorder and things like that. And I know telling just my story like that probably won't resonate with most people, just because I feel like no two people develop an eating disorder the exact same way. But it might help to understand that it's not that cut and dry. That's just like the only way you develop an eating disorder is to decide, hey, I want to have an eating disorder now. It's actually completely different. And also, I didn't make this video until now because honestly, I didn't have the brain power. I don't know if it makes sense, but like I couldn't think that hard. And it's like, it's actually taken me a while talking with my therapist and actually my dietitian. She's kind of like my second therapist, honestly. She just like helps me work through all sorts of things because she was anorexic too before, and so she just kind of like gets the train of thought, and she'll like, I don't know, take me to all these like aha moments. And I'm just like, I don't know, it's crazy. I think it's funny because she's supposed to be the dietitian, but it's like she's the therapist too. She's everything. She's great. But so it's like really understanding what caused it, because I didn't really know. And then, you know, getting to the place where I was just nourished enough to where I could think that hard and I could follow those different events and piece it together and form a coherent story. Because my brain was just, it was shutting down. It couldn't process old information very well. I couldn't remember anything. It was like making new memories, getting new information, like just retaining anything. I couldn't do it. And it would drive people crazy because I'd ask them like the same thing over and over because they just kept forgetting. And I honestly didn't remember ever asking them before. And they're like, you asked me 2 hours ago, it's this. And I'm like, okay. So, but I'm at a good enough place now where I can like actually go back and kind of think, oh, so that's how it all connects. And so now I feel that I'm at a close enough place where I can pretty well share how it all began. It probably goes deeper. I'm finding every week new things, it's like, oh, it went a little bit deeper, and this played into it too. But I think I have a pretty good understanding of it. So, um, without further ado, I'm going to share that with you. So, really, the whole thing started with me very early in life. I want to say, I'm not blaming my personality or like saying that I was destined to have an eating disorder and nothing's on me. But I don't know, my sister-in-law is like really into this whole personality test thing that's going around. It's like you're a 1 or a 2 or a 3, it goes all the way up to 9, and you have like um, wing numbers for your personality. I don't know if you're familiar with this. I don't know if it's popular or if she's just discovered it and thinks it's really cool. But I found out, she's like, I want to figure your personality out. So I was like, okay. And she was like, I think you're a 2. And so I read like the description, and it was like me to a T. And it even said like 2s are kind of predisposed to having an eating disorder, like anorexia or bulimia. And I was like, are you kidding me? But it's because, we're like, just how I tend to internalize everything. Like, I don't want to be a bother or burden anyone by saying, oh, I'm having a problem, or I'm feeling bad about this, or uncomfortable with that, or I, just anything, like any issues, especially with like body image or just anything. It's like, I didn't want to ever bother anyone by voicing it and trying to work through it. So I just internalize everything and just like think about it constantly and let it go over in my head and try to brush it off, but then it comes back, and so it's like internalizing all these things, and that's not good, not healthy for your brain, for your, your psychology or anything. But that's kind of what I did, and so that's why I think that 2s are kind of more predisposed to that, because they don't say anything, they don't get it out, they just like bottle it up and hope it doesn't explode, and it does. So yeah, but so I'm just kind of like that person that if I'm having a hard time, probably not going to say anything. And that happened a lot growing up. There was a person in my life, for as long as I can remember, has just made me feel like I couldn't do anything right. Like, everything I did was subpar. Like, I was just an embarrassment or a burden, or it just make a total fool of myself because I was so incompetent without their constant supervision. And that can really take a toll on you, especially when you are just a child. Like, I'm talking for as long as I can remember, just a child, developing into the person they're going to be, developing into, an independent human being who can go about life on their own, to feel like they are just defective is really damaging. And I mean, I'm talking, I couldn't zip up a jacket correctly. Like, I'd zip my jacket and I didn't zip it up high enough, or I didn't, or I zipped it too low, or I zipped it too high. I remember one time, I guess I zipped my jacket up too high, and I just looked like the biggest dork, and I was gonna just, look like a total idiot. I had to unzip it. She had to unzip it for me to the correct place where it was open enough to where I looked okay. And it was just like, but not too low. I couldn't find that place. Only she could. And I tied my shoes wrong. I would make a bow and then like put in a little extra like knot thing, so that, because I used to like run around and play with my friends all the time. My shoes would come untied. And so I'd like double knot it and it wouldn't fall out anymore. So I thought, hey, that's the way to go. But she would just be like, what are you doing? You look like an idiot. What are you, 2? You can't tie your shoes correctly. You've got like this huge knot at the end of both your shoes and you look like an idiot. And I'm just like, okay. So she'd untie my shoes and then tie them correctly. Like, she had to do it because I wasn't capable of like tying a shoe. And I started getting older. I was supposed to, my mom worked and so did my dad. And so my mom was like, hey, you teach her how to start teaching her how to cook because they're going to go away to college in a few years, and she's going to be the one who watches the younger two, and so she's going to need to know how to like cook some stuff. And so she's like, I don't know, teach her how to make a grilled cheese. And so I asked her, I was like, okay, can you show me how to make a grilled cheese? And she would just be like, no, are you serious? You would like burn the house down. There's no possible way you could make a grilled cheese. Like, you can't even work a microwave. And I was like, I don't know what I did wrong with a microwave. Maybe I pressed the buttons out of sequence, or I don't know. But for some reason, I couldn't even work a microwave. And so there's no possible way I could make a grilled cheese without like burning the house down. And so she refused to teach me how, and I wasn't gonna like try to mess with the stove or anything without being showed first, because I didn't want to screw anything up. So like, there I am, around like 11 or 12 at this point, and I don't even know how to make a grilled cheese sandwich because she wouldn't show me how, or, you know, help me learn it all. And so, and then she'd like bring it back up later. Like, I'd ask her how to, or I'd be doing something and it's wrong. And so I'd be like, I think, you know, like, it's fine. And she'd be like, are you serious, Sage? You can't even make a grilled cheese sandwich. Like, no, you're not doing this right. Let me fix it. And it's like, I can't make one because you won't let me. So it's just like, I mean, and I know they sound like little, like, you know, trivial things, but especially as you're growing up and you're learning things, it's like, if I can't even zip up a jacket or tie my shoes, how big of a, you know, failure am I at the things that matter? You know, like, if I felt like I could not do anything right. If I put my hair in a ponytail, it was too, I had it slicked back too tight, or it was too low, or it was too high, or I wrapped the ponytail around my hair too many times and I looked like an idiot. I mean, like, I couldn't do anything. And so it was like, I just felt like the biggest failure. Like, I was constantly just an embarrassment to my family and everyone that was around me because everything I did was wrong. And I couldn't even do the simplest of things that everyone else could do, and it was fine. But, like, here I am, this defective idiot who can't zip up a jacket. I mean, and I just felt like an idiot. And, of course, I wouldn't say anything to my mom or my dad or anything because I didn't want to, you know, first of all, they're my parents, and I'm not going to say, so, this person is telling me I literally can't do anything right. And, you know, is that true? Like, what are they going to say? Yes? Or, of course they're going to say no. They love me, they're my parents. They're going to say, oh, you're perfect just the way you are, I love you so much. And plus, then it would be like, oh, I'm bothering them. And I, you know, here they are having to deal with me, just sitting there making a fool of myself, making a fool of them by extension, just ruining everything. And now I'm going to whine about it to them? Like, what is that? So I just sat there feeling like the worst person ever, all my life growing up. And then, also there was this other thing that happened, which I'm not really going to go into detail, but I was around 8 at the time, so I was still very young. And I think that's part of the problem. A lot of these things happen, like, from my very young age, and so it was just kind of like these warped ideas that I got in my head, and they grew and turned into anorexia, because that makes sense. But there's this thing that happened, and, you know, I blamed myself, and it had nothing to do with me at all, but it was like, I don't know, you know, I ruin everything. I can't do anything right. And so, you know, I should have noticed there were these people that caused a lot of problems for my parents. Tried to just destroy their reputation, just like, I don't know, ruin their lives basically, because my dad had to fire this man and his wife because he was, well, my dad is a pastor, and he had to fire him, this man, because he was doing some things. He worked in the church, and he was doing some things that just were not okay if you work at a church, and he was doing them in the church. And it was like, you can't do that, obviously. And so he had to fire him, and he made it to where, well, he didn't even fire him. He let him resign. He was being very nice. And, you know, so they left. But then they, like, came back and tried to get everyone in the church to, like, hate my father and my parents and, like, tell all these horrible, just, like, ridiculous lies. Like, who would even believe that? But literally half the church believed it. We lost half of the people in our congregation because, I don't know, they felt like believing these people who were, like, being completely disrespectful to the church and my father for doing these things. And I blamed myself because I could tell, especially like his wife, there's just something off. And I did not trust them. I did not like them. I just knew they're not right. Something's off. And I didn't say anything to my parents because, first of all, I had no idea what. I didn't even understand when the thing happened, like, what it even meant, because I was a child and it wasn't child friendly. And so they're just kind of like, oh yeah, they did some bad things and now they have to leave. But because I kind of sensed that there was something off about them and I didn't say anything, and it wasn't until they were caught and then all these problems happened, I thought if I would have just said something, they could have just gotten rid of them before the bad thing happened, and none of these, you know, repercussions and all these people leaving, none of that would have happened. So it's all my fault because I didn't say anything and I knew and blah blah blah. And so I blamed myself for this, and you know, I just thought, well, if I've put my parents through probably the hardest thing they've been through, as far as like pastoring and things like that, then I've got to like make it up somehow. I've got to be like perfect, and I know that I can't do anything right, but maybe if I'm just perfect, like in some other way, like I would try to help out with everything, which isn't bad. I mean, help your parents, that's great. But like I was trying to do it to make up for not saving my parents from this horrible thing when I was 8. So it just depends on your motive. I'm not saying, you know, if you're trying to help your parents, you have an eating disorder. But it's you know, if you're trying to make up for something that happened when you were 8 that you blame yourself for, maybe that's not legitimate, you know, like the proper way to go about things. But that's what I did. I tried to just do everything around the house, do you know, everything that I could to make my parents' life easier, and I was like determined to be the perfect daughter. Like I would get all 100% in school. I would never need help if I, like, with homework or something, if I didn't understand it. I wouldn't ask for help. I would just like sit there, stay up till all hours of the night, going over the same thing, trying to figure it out myself, because how dare you ask your parents for help? You've got to be able to figure this out yourself. You know, like, it was crazy. So I was like getting no sleep too, because I was, especially when it came around time for algebra, didn't understand it at all. I like just memorized all the equations and everything, and it was like, why? I don't know. That's just how it is. So, yeah. But I would do all that, and I was like, you know, I can never need help or struggle with anything. And if I am having a hard time with something, I can never let them know. Like, I became a master of just looking happy and being fine all the time. I went through this period of depression where I was literally to the point, I was around 14, I think, and I was literally to the point where I was like, I don't know, it was around sunset, and I looked outside and I saw the sun going down, and I was like, if I have to wake up tomorrow and see the sunrise, I don't know if I can handle it. I don't know if I can handle living another day. And I was like, I knew I couldn't kill myself, because that would just like destroy my parents. And so I was like, maybe I can just put myself in a stupid situation and end up getting killed. Like, I was in very serious depression and I would not say anything. And my parents thought I was fine. That's how good I was at just acting like everything was okay, even if it wasn't. And I would do that, and I would get in my head that I had to be, perfect, and I couldn't be a burden. That was my biggest thing, because I always felt like I was a burden because I couldn't do anything right. I mean, if I can't even tie my shoes, my parents are going to have to help me through life with everything for the rest of my life. Like, I can't live on my own, apparently, because I just ruin everything. And so I was like, you can't be a burden, you can't be a burden. That's part of the reason I didn't say anything when I was depressed. And I just sort of worked through that. Like, I don't know. But, and I was, it was to the point where I was like, one time I was sick, and, I was laying there. I think maybe I had strep throat, I don't know. But my mom came in and she was like, okay, I'm going out to, I'm just going to go buy some lunch at, I don't know, some fast food restaurant for everybody. You want me to pick you up something? And like, she's literally already going out to buy food. But I thought, how could I possibly burden her with needing to eat? And so I was like, no, I don't need anything at all. And she's like, but your stomach isn't upset, And I was just like, I'm not hungry, I'm too sick, it's fine, I don't need anything. It's like it was crazy. Like, it would have been no extra trouble to pick me up something if she's already going out to get food, But I was just like, I mean, everything. I don't need anything. I'm perfectly content. I don't need to, I don't need to eat, I don't need to drink, I don't need to breathe, I'm fine, And it got way out of control. And so I think getting that mentality, it kind of, and it wasn't just with eating, like, it was like, I don't know, my mom would ask me, do you need a blanket? No, I don't need a blanket, I'm fine. And then like, she'd leave the room, and then I'd get up and get it myself. Because of course I needed a blanket, I was cold, I had a fever, I was sick, it was like crazy, it was with everything. And I think as like I went on, it was kind of like, just very slowly developed into this eating disorder where it was like, okay, maybe you can't do anything right. Maybe you're just this defective human that as hard as you try, because I did try my hardest, you guys, with everything, and everything always came up short according to this person who was just like, yeah, you look like an idiot, or yeah, you did that completely wrong. Let me fix it for you so nobody sees what you did. And it was like, but I could completely control like what I ate and what I drank, and it wasn't like a conscious thing. It just sort of happened. And I think it sort of happened when I was like, my mom mentioned one time to a friend, or no, her friend was like, oh, you're so skinny, Sage, like, what do you I don't know, are you sure you don't want seconds, because we were like eating, and I was like, no, I'm full. And I really was. And I wasn't struggling at this point. I was just like, the lower end of normal BMI, whatever. But they're just like, oh, Sage, you're so skinny, And I was like, no, I'm full. And they're like, you're full already? And Mom was like, I know, I'd love to have that problem. Like, just kidding with a friend. But that kind of got in my head, like, oh, girls want to be skinny. That's like society's version of, like, idea of the perfect girl. A skinny, pretty girl. And like, okay, so I do skinny right. I can be skinny, and, no one has said anything about me not being skinny, and they just said they wish they had that problem. And like, I did get full kind of fast, but so it was like, okay, so I have a small appetite, and I'm skinny, and I do that right. So I'm going to make sure I stay skinny, and I always have a small appetite, because that's the one thing I have that I do correctly. And it just like spiraled, obviously, and I didn't even realize it, but I was like eating next to nothing. Obviously I got skeletal. I mean, like, no inpatient treatments would accept me. They're like, she's far too high risk, like, we can't take her, she's completely critical. Try getting her admitted to a hospital, and like, tubes and Do not even let her, like, we're confining her to a wheelchair because she can't even stand or walk. That burns too many calories, you know? And I got to this horrible place, but I think it all started with that idea that, oh, I can't do anything right. I'm constantly a burden and all of these things, but I do skinny right and I do small appetite right. So I'm going to, like, make sure I have the smallest appetite of anyone in the world, and I'm the skinniest person in the world. And it was like this thing in the back of my head that I didn't really make the conscious decision, but that's really how it all happened for me. It was just little things that got put in my head and placing guilt on myself when I had no reason to, and believing this person who, I mean, who cares how you flip and tie your shoe? Everybody ties their shoes differently. You know, it's like, it's not a big deal. If I zip my jacket up farther than you would, who cares? Nobody looks at another person and says, their jacket is zipped too high, they're an idiot, you know? It's just, it's crazy. It's thinking all of these things are the end of the world and they matter so much when really no one gives it a second thought. And it's refusing to admit that you're struggling or admit that you have a problem and try to talk it out and get help. It's internalizing everything, and it can turn into this horrible thing that just takes over your life. And so if you're, you know, trying to work through something, if you're bottling something up inside or placing blame on yourself when you know logically you really shouldn't be, that can turn into something way different. I mean, not being able to work a microwave correctly had nothing to do with my weight, but somehow it turned into that, you know? Blaming myself for not understanding something, or, you know, warning my parents about that I didn't even understand because it was a grown-up, you know, subject and I didn't even know what it meant, but not being able to warn them about it beforehand turned into anorexia. Like, what is that? It doesn't even make any sense. So please, 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 if you are just going through something or internalizing something, go see somebody. See a therapist. Or if that doesn't work for you, just talk to somebody that you trust and that loves you and won't, you know, a non-judgmental ear. That's just what you need to find. Somebody who you can get these feelings out to, because once you voice them, you can kind of hear how irrational it is, and you can figure it all out before it's too late, and it turns into this crazy eating disorder. So that's kind of how it went for me. If you have any more questions, ask me in the comments. I will try to answer them. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next Tuesday.